So this week we're discussing Abel Ferrara's uncompromising classic Bad Lieutenant from 1992.
Uncompromising, okay.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Why, did you find it compromising?
No. Sometimes, actually. The whole thing was...
Well, you watched the Tubi version, so you didn't get to see Harvey Keitel's penis.
That I did see the compromised version then.
Bad Lieutenant was directed by Abel Ferrara and written by Ferrara and the late Zoe Lund, who appears in the film, as well as Ferrara's 1981 film, Miss 45, which, ironically enough, she wears a habit and dresses like a nun in that movie. Zoe Lund died in 1999, and she was an unapologetic user of heroin. Her Wikipedia page describes her as a model/actress, as well as a political activist.
Okay.
And, the activism part sounds nice and all, but I believe her main philanthropic endeavor involved advocating for the legalization of heroin for recreational use, a cause that still really hasn't taken off.
Yeah, I can't get behind it as much as I can save the wheels, but honestly...
No, you don't want a little...
no, you know what?
Little recreational heroin?
Everything should be legal. Everything should be legal, Gary. Like, honestly... There's no reason to put people in prison for...
Maybe you're right. That might be a philosophy that I agree with, but it is like there's not a lot of people, even people that are advocating for the legalization of drugs, usually not recreational legalization of heroin.
Is a little bit extreme.
Well, Russ, you might not like heroin, but Zoe Lund, she loved the stuff.
Loved heroin.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear people who...
Heroin's not a thing that you kind of dabble in. If you're into heroin, you're really
in. Are into it.
Bad Lieutenant was shot without permits in New York City for $1 million with a minimal script written by the heroin-addicted Zoe Lund and Abel Ferrara, who was also supposedly using drugs at the time.
I heard that.
And there's some controversy about who wrote this film because Zoe Lund would later claim most of the credit. Then I think her boyfriend claimed to have written it later.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But also these are heroin addicted people.
So, who's really even making the movie? The movie makes itself when you're just making a movie on heroin.
Yeah.
And I hear it was written in, 2 weeks or something?
Oh, okay.
That's also 2 weeks of heroin use, I would
This is back when, they would make real movies. They would go to the investors and be like, hey, listen, you give me $1 million, I'm going to do some heroin, I'm going to make this fucking picture, I'm going to come back, you're going to take it, you're going to put it out. Harvey Keitel's penis, NC-17, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. They would put it out. This is before the industry became so corporatized, and they're still letting artists make movies. Yeah, I mean, this is my type of film, Russ. It was made far from the reach of Hollywood. It was shot guerrilla style in New York City in the early 90s before Giuliani got in there and started making everything clean and corporate. There's no M&M store in Bad Lieutenant, although Harvey Keitel does take him to the candy shop. He shows his penis.
Wait, is that what a candy shop is?
Well, that's the 50 Cent song, when he's talking about taking them to the candy shop and showing them the lollipop, which I believe is a reference to his genitals.
Yeah.
It's an innuendo.
Okay, that's good.
You got to be smart to catch these innuendos.
I didn't catch it because I'm not smart.
Yeah.
That's why you have me on your thing as the sidekick. I'm not the guy making it.
Well, this is your education, Russ. You've been sent here by the government to be re-educated.
Oh, that's why I can't remember the last 22 years of my life.
We're not on U.S. soil right now. We're in Guantanamo Bay. Theoretically, there's no laws here. Originally, Bad Lieutenant was rated NC-17, and it's one of the few films to be denied an R rating on the basis of depictions of drug use and violence. The unedited cut, his rating was described as being for sexual violence and strong sexual situations and dialogue, as well as graphic drug use.
It has all of those things.
So this movie has a long history of censorship, not only in this country, but in England and Ireland. Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, the largest video rental companies in the United States, had a policy prohibiting the purchase and rental of NC-17 films. Thus, an R-rated cut was created, specifically just for Blockbuster and other retailers. The scene in which the lieutenant pulls over two young girls and masturbates in front of them is almost completely absent from the Blockbuster version. Bad Lieutenant is Abel Ferrara's masterpiece. I'm giving this film 5 stars.
5 stars?
5 stars, Russ.
Out the gate, Gary?
Out the gate, 5 stars. It's probably Harvey Keitel's greatest performance and Ferrara's best film. If you like Taxi Driver, you'll love Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah.
If you like the films of Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese, I think you'll really like Bad Lieutenant. Martin Scorsese was so impressed with the film, he called it one of the 5 best films of the 1990s. And a lot of people, they always compare Tarantino and Scorsese on their films, but never on their acting. And they love to say the N-word in their own movies, which I think kind of brings them together as filmmakers.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of brings us all together as horrible. Yeah, I mean it.
Joking.
Yeah. But no, yeah.
You don't agree with my?
No, I think that's a fine assessment. I'm going to reserve my judgment for the end, as I do. But
Well, you know what, Russ? You pay attention. You listen to my breakdown of this film because I might win you over.
I think that's why I do it. I come in, kind of like I do to the movie. No expectations. I kind of want to see where you set it and why you think that, and then at the end, I come in with my assessment, which is a better assessment. I'm a better person.
Bad Lieutenant is free on Tubi, although I think it's the R-rated version, which is kind of disappointing. Still worth watching if you can't get the NC-17 cut. There's a Blu-ray with the original NC-17 version available for $15 on Amazon, and there's also some version free on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure which. The R-rated version is still good, but if there's one thing we at the VHS Boys podcast vehemently oppose, that would be censorship.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Hate censorship.
Oh, man. Excuse me.
Hey, censor that. So far, you've given 3s, and I don't know if I've heard a 4 out of you, but this is a 5, Gary.
This might be the first 5-star movie.
Folks, to the viewers out there, this 5-star movie, that's the perfect movie. To Gary, this is the peak of cinema.
I don't know how you could improve this. Then this is cinema. This is real fucking cinema.
I think so. Yeah. I would agree.
This is a great movie. I'm telling people to go find the NC-17 version of this and watch it.
Sure.
So you can enjoy, in full glory, Harvey Keitel sexually harassing his real life nanny and dancing around nude like a duck. Come on.
Okay.
Bad Lieutenant is an all-time classic. Even Roger Ebert gave the film 4 stars and praised Keitel's performance. This is a career-defining role for Harvey Keitel. It's a rare lead for an actor that was getting a little older. I think he kind of knew this was his shot to really do something exceptional, and he went all out with his performance. And I think it's really Harvey Keitel's acting that makes this film so compelling.
Agreed.
Bad Lieutenant starts as a day in the life of a corrupt New York City police lieutenant played by Keitel. In the opening scene, he berates his 2 sons for being late before he drops them off at Catholic school. He then snorts some cocaine and arrives on the scene of a double homicide. And the lieutenant is more interested in doing drugs and betting on the World Series than performing any actual police work. He's basically just like a degenerate thug. And seemingly self-destructive.
Yes. Very much so.
He's doing drugs. He's dealing drugs. He's cheating on his wife with prostitutes who keep very dark, dingy apartments. A fictional World Series between the Mets and Dodgers plays out as the backdrop of the film. And as the character's drug use spirals and he continues to get more fucked up, he continues accruing more debt with his bookie. The whole thing is pretty tense and uncomfortable. There's a great scene where Harvey Keitel shoots the radio in his car and calls Darryl Strawberry the N-word. Then he just throws up his siren and takes off crying.
Yeah. I like to think this is how you react whenever...
Well, this is what's impressive about it. It's over the top, but it still feels sincere and authentic. Like I could believe this is a real guy.
Yeah.
It's a really fucking great performance. You can believe this character 100%, and watching Harvey Keitel self-destruct in this way is pretty compelling.
Okay. Sure.
It'll keep you watching. There's also some moral ambiguity to the character portrayed in the film. He's a family man, and he has some positive relationships, even a strangely sentimental moment with the mother of the man who he uses to sell the drugs he steals. In their apartment, which is like a shrine to Catholicism. Their apartment almost looks like a church.
Yeah, right. Just lots of pictures of Jesus. And imagine all the posters in here were actually Jesus, and you'd have it.
Yeah, and those are like basically the themes of Bad Lieutenant. It's like Catholicism and like Catholic guilt and like redemption or forgiveness.
Meanwhile, though, you're doing shifty deals at the guy's house, and the old.
But is it 100% shifty? He's feeding this guy's family. They don't seem unappreciative.
It's true. In fact, the old woman gives him pills to like calm down.
Yeah.
Because she sees that he's all like.
Yeah, they're like worried about him. There's a pretty notorious scene in the film where Harvey Keitel pulls over 2 teenage girls who are driving home from a nightclub without a license, and to avoid arrest, he makes one pull up her skirt and show her butt while the other reluctantly simulates giving a blowjob while Harvey Keitel's character jerks off against their father's car.
You ever suck a guy's cock? Let me see how you do it. You ever suck a guy's cock?
He also like verbally sexually assaults them.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
It is a long, uncomfortable scene.
Sure.
And, you know, like, what are they trying to say here? Either the lieutenant has enough control to keep from actually having sex with them, or he's so twisted he needs the weird public show to get off. Or it's like, is it, you know, more of the theme of forgiveness? Instead of actually doing anything to him, he just, like, sends him back to the suburbs.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you?
Little bit of jizz on their dad's car, I guess. But
Yeah, what do you think, Gary? What do you
perhaps it's his own morality because he has daughters and kids, and like he will fuck whores and shit. But he's not gonna rape these teenage girls.
I guess that would be.
Or he's just so twisted that's not enough. Like
That would be
he
too
doesn't want to
bad.
have sex with them. He wants to do weird. He needs like some weird perverse show.
Yeah.
He needs them to like kick him in the balls and do some David Carradine shit. I don't know. Either way you slice it, though, the performance paints a complex portrait of this kind of man who's spiraling into self-destructive madness.
I mean, sure.
This movie, there's a sincerity to it that I feel like a movie like this made nowadays probably wouldn't have. And this movie
Right,
probably
yeah,
almost
sure.
didn't have. I think they were eventually going to make this a little bit more comedic with Christopher Walken. You know, make it more like a dark comedy. And I'm glad that they went this route.
I'm just trying to think of that scene, any of these scenes with Christopher Walken,
Right?
and like,
Show me how you suck a guy's cock. I mean, I'm not good at doing a Christopher Walken impersonation.
yeah, you little cocksucker, open you pretend.
Yeah. Women get raped in the city every day, and the Catholic Church puts up 50 G's because this one wears a penguin suit. Something like that. That's
Yeah,
a pretty bad Walken.
It's all right. I mean,
There's an almost comedic moment when the lieutenant tries to steal drugs out of a crime scene, and he just drops them at his feet in front of a bunch of other cops.
Got the key of coke. Let's put in evidence.
yeah, right? Yeah, he's all hopped up on shit, and he just jumps into the car, and he's digging through, and then he can't even. He's like shaking so much, he can't even hold 3 pounds of coke that he just was throwing into his pants.
So it's a pretty great performance. This movie reminds me a lot of Raging Bull.
Sure.
And this feels kind of like Harvey Keitel got the chance to star in a Scorsese movie. Because he was always in the Scorsese movies, but he's
Right.
never the star.
Right.
There's a scene in a parking garage or something where the other cops tell Harvey's character about the rape of the nun in Spanish Harlem, and that the Catholic Church has put up a $50,000 reward for the 2 suspects.
Yep.
And this leads to probably the most quotable line in the film.
Leave it to the Catholic Church. Girls get raped every day. Now they're going to put up 50 G's just because these chicks wear penguin suits.
And then towards the end of the film, Keitel goes to see the nun at the church, and he pleads with her to talk to the police so they can prosecute her rapists. And it's the first time in the movie he's really made any attempt to do any police work. It almost seems like he's almost trying to make up for all the bad things he does.
But at the same time, it almost seems like he's trying to like validate himself to be a better person by like beating up some boys who, you know, rapists, they're bad. That's a bad person. But he wants to take out some.
Well, he actually, for some reason, he wants to
Justice.
capture these people, which he has no interest in solving the double homicide or
No, he wants to kill him.
anything
Right?
else.
He wants to kill him. That's what it seems like. He's like, they're gonna be trial. You know.
No, he's telling her they're juveniles and they're just gonna, you know, they need to go through the system so they don't rape somebody else. He's
Yeah.
basically being a real cop at this point.
I was under the impression he was saying because they're juveniles, they're gonna just get back out there. And she says, you know, she forgives them, and he says, "What right do you have?" You know, at some point, he's begging her to let him kill him or like do something to
arrest them.
To arrest them, sure. But
He's not gonna kill them, Russ. He's a fucking cop, dude.
But he's a bad cop. He's bad lieutenant.
Yeah, he's bad lieutenant. That's why he's not gonna kill them.
Yeah, no, but he he even points out that they're going to be tried outside the system, and she says, "I forgive them." And he says, "What right do you have to forgive them?
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
going to be,
They could rape another woman,
right?" And so, so you're just thinking that he was saying he's got to put them through the system, even though he said
no,
the
he's
system's
telling
gonna
her
be
they're
corrupt?
juveniles. They're not going to go to jail forever, but they need to be put through the system and punished for what happened.
Oh,
And she's just like, no, I've forgiven them.
oh, okay.
But what happens next is even more compelling because he just completely starts breaking down, like whining and crying. And then an apparition of Jesus with the crown of thorns appears to him.
Yes.
And he continues to just like lose his shit. And it's probably the best scene in the movie. Yeah, it's like he's having a complete nervous breakdown, and then he starts kissing Jesus' bloody feet, and he looks up and he realizes it's an older black woman with the stolen chalice. She, at first, I wasn't even sure if it was a woman. And she's holding a gold chalice. I'm like, is it just some pimp walked in? Just some like older
drinking
pimp dude.
Drinking some wine.
But no, it's a woman who brought back the chalice that was stolen. The rapist tried to pawn it. And she brings Keitel right to the two kids who raped the nun.
How convenient, huh?
And the scene in the crack den is pretty dark as well. One of them is making an older woman like dance, and there's like a younger looking junkie on her knees. The whole thing makes your skin crawl. And then Harvey Keitel comes in and just holds the two kids at gunpoint. And he handcuffs them, and you're like, okay, I guess he's going to arrest them now. Yeah. And then he just sits down and he starts smoking crack with them. He has a little crack session with the guys who raped the nun, which, I mean, she did forgive him.
Yeah. So why not smoke crack with them? You know, they're already in a shitty situation. He's obviously going to do something with them, you know. So
they smoke crack at gunpoint while Harvey Keitel watches the Mets win the pennant.
Wait, did they win?
Yeah.
I thought they lost.
No, they win.
They win. And that means he gets his money?
I think technically, but I think he also, you know.
He kind of fucked that up.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe, it's hard for me to really remember. Because he's going back and forth betting on the different teams, too.
Right. He's got
but I think
Los
he's betting
Angeles
on the Mets.
and the Mets. Okay. Because the Mets game keeps coming back is what it is.
So miraculously, he finds the
okay,
the suspects in the crime, and the Mets win the pennant.
And so if he's doubled down, and he's owed first it was $30,000, and then it was $60,000, and then it'd be like $120,000 at this point of money because he's doubled down twice, and he owes his down payment of the $30,000 for his first for his bet, right? He didn't pay that $30,000.
Yeah, and I think he got $30,000 from the kid who sells his coke. So I think he was.
Right. So he was gonna. You're
kind of wondering if things are going to work out for Harvey Keitel.
He would have had to pay back the $30,000, but then he'd get $120,000 back because of his winnings. By the way, speaking of real asshole, I don't know if you want to edit this in early or whatever.
What's that,
Gary? But I had this joke where I was going to say, I want a Bad Lieutenant video game. Right, so it's like Grand Theft Auto, but less mission based.
Yeah.
And you just kind of go around and you do some bad shit, and the worse shit you do, the more points you get. And then every time you press the B button, you can go oh, and then the final boss is Jesus.
Yeah,
you got to fight Jesus.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you got to develop that bit a little bit. You have to I don't know. But
right.
let's
I'd love a Bad Lieutenant video game. It's like GTA, but less mission oriented. And at the end,
there's no punchline in it.
And at the end, you'll end up out of a 59-hour bender, and the controls are all fucked up, and you got to fight Jesus.
Yeah.
That's not funny.
I mean, I can pretend it's funny if you want. So then in the car, Harvey Keitel berates the two rapists and shoves his gun in their face and calls them cocksuckers while he threatens to murder them. And this scene feels like it's a callback to the opening where he yells at his sons.
Yeah, sure.
And then he just,
They're just boys too, right?
Yeah.
And they're loud and rowdy, or these ones are quiet.
Now it's two grown men. He's screaming at them for raping a nun instead of being late for the school bus.
Yeah.
But just like the Catholic father figure that he is, he screams at them and then forgives them. And instead of taking the two rapists to the police station, Harvey Keitel drives them to the Port Authority bus terminal and puts them on a bus with a cigar box containing $30,000.
Where he makes sure they don't miss the bus.
He does, yeah. He gets them on that bus. And
Yeah.
he sends them out of there and he tells them to never come back.
Because you're never going to...
I guess this is like his big epiphany on forgiveness and redemption.
I like his line, which was, you're going to get on that bus because your life ain't shit in this town.
Yeah. So after Harvey Keitel leaves the terminal, he parks on the street in front of Penn Station. And another car drives up beside him, and the driver, presumably the bookie with whom the lieutenant had arranged to meet, shoots and kills him.
Bam.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, he always... I mean, if I thought the Mets had lost, and so I was like, well, I don't know why they would shoot him. He's just a bad guy, and so he had to come in. But now, if he's doubled down, and he's supposed to get like $120,000 from this other guy, no wonder he's gonna get fucking shot. He was an asshole, and he doubled down way too many times. Double or nothing? No, that's fucking no. You're not gonna get away with making that bet so many times and then coming out because you were goddamn lucky. And then
yeah, it's a pretty violent, dark portrayal of New York City. And the main character in the film just kind of fits into it perfectly, and to the point where it feels like a documentary.
It does very.
And yeah,
I'm giving it 2 stars, Gary.
2 stars.
Yeah, great performance. Kind of whatever.
That's fucking ridiculous. I wish I had something heavy over here I could throw at you. You're giving Bad Lieutenant 2 stars.
What are you gonna cry about? Oh!
I did so many bad things.
He did do a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
That heroin scene, Gary, so realistic.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't
know if they put a real needle in his arm. It looks pretty. It's pretty uncomfortable to watch.
Legit as hell. Like I felt his anxiety. Like I wasn't even getting shot up with heroin, but I felt. You know, you've gotten blood taken before, and just watching that scene, you just feel the realism. You just felt like, man, I can feel my own blood like pump through that one vein where they're gonna inject a needle. And yeah, and then she says this nice little speech about like vampires or some shit. I don't know. I was too high on
which I think was
cocaine
improvised
and heroin at that point.
Yeah,
I was playing the.
And Zoe Lund, in this point in her life, she looks okay for a heroin addict. I don't know how she looked towards the end in 1999 when she died.
I mean, she was a model, right? You know.
Yeah, at one point.
A lot of people do heroin, Gary.
Sure, especially back then when heroin chic was in. And, you know, like I said, 5 stars. This movie's a masterpiece. Everyone should go watch it. Russ doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And they made like almost like a weird spiritual sequel. It's like not really a sequel. It's made by the guy who produced it. So I guess they could call it Bad Lieutenant.
But it's Werner Herzog.
It's directed by Werner Herzog, and it's got
Weird.
Nicolas Cage in it.
Also weird.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage's acting I fucking hate.
Did you see it?
I did see it.
Okay.
It's almost like it's an okay movie, but Nicolas Cage is pretty irritating. And his performance, it's not nearly the performance of Harvey Keitel. It's an okay movie.
All right. Well, there you go. Now you have 2 reviews for the price of 1.
All right. I guess we can go back to doing heroin.
Yeah, time to go back to doing heroin. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
2 stars, really, Russ?
No. No.
That implies it's not even a good movie.
It almost wasn't.
Really?
I mean,
it's a fucking amazing film.
Okay. Maybe.
Why is it not a good movie? Explain yourself.
It's a better piece of art than it is a movie.
What does that even mean?
It's like it was. I don't know. It felt like a Taxi Driver knockoff. It was like someone didn't understand Taxi Driver, and they're like, I want to make that movie.
Oh, really? I don't think so.
But then, like I'm saying, it kind of felt more like French New Wave. It wasn't, and I don't like a lot of French New Wave.
Yeah, you hate French people.
Oui.
Yeah.
Je déteste le people de France.
Ironically enough, Zoe Lund would end her life in Paris. Not end her life. That's where she died.
Well, how did she die? Old age?
Heroin?
Heroin addict?
Assuming it was heroin.
Yeah, no.
Assuming it was a heroin-related death. Be funny if she died in like a fucking skiing accident.
Yeah.
She also might have been heroin-related if she was going down a slow Payan horse.
Yeah, that'll fuck you up.
Yeah. Wiping off your face on a tree like Sonny Bono.
Honestly, though, a lot of the times it made me. I think that's the reason people didn't like Uncut Gems. It's because it made me uncomfortable. Right? It was just a movie that this guy was not redeemable, and he was only redeemable when he cried like a bulldog to Jesus. right? And even that scene was kind of laughable because at this point I didn't really care about him. I could realize him as a human. I could see him as a human at that point, and it was more identifiable. But at the same time, it was like, but this guy's a piece of shit. Like, he's just living a shitty life, doing shitty things.
Well, agree or disagree, Russ. I think, like most good films, it takes you into a world that you haven't seen before and kind of...
Yeah, sure. No,
I think it's pretty realistic. I think there are probably people like this in the
no, for sure.
New York City Police Department.
I've been in, not this lifestyle, but weird benders happen. Weird benders happen. And you go into a downward spiral where you're smoking heroin and pulling your gun on children in a staircase.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
Can you write a film about your experience called Bad Russ?
Yeah. Yes. Sure. I mean, but I don't have any authority. That's the difference.
Yeah, which is part of what's so great about the concept. It's this guy with authority who's fucking spiraling into madness.
Right, because then he can abuse his power rather than if I was just selling drugs to someone. That's okay. That's understandable. I need to make money, so please subscribe. But a cop selling drugs. Now that is a dichotomy right there. So I guess that is more dramatic. Thing. You know what? 3 stars, Gary. You got me. You got me 3 stars. So people, watch it if you want to see a good performance. If you like Taxi Driver and if you liked, French New Wave, and you aren't a heroin addict who is going to relapse upon watching this movie, check it out.
There you go. You got it there, folks. Go watch Bad Lieutenant. We're getting positive reviews from both of us. I think that's it.
You owe me some heroin after this, Gary.
I do.
For changing my...
Truer words have never been spoken, Russ.
And we're going to do it, and I'm going to be like, ooh!
Where the fuck were you? Where were you?
I reminded a little bit...
You rat fuck! Forgive me! I just sound like Dice.
Or De Niro in that movie where... What about me? What about me? What about me?
What movie's that?
Oh, what the fuck? I don't know. He's out. I don't know. Who cares?
No, well, that's one for the next episode.
Yeah.
We'll cut it off there.